Shanmusundaram, what stage are you in the lab?
Good evening, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. So I've just set up everything for proceeding with the implantation of the lead. So I'll
Uh,
just briefly tell about the case, sir. I'll just tell about the case details.
please go ahead.
Yes, sir. This is a 63 years old female who was a non-diabetic, non-hypertensive with a normal coronaries. She was diagnosed to have dilated cardiomyopathy with the left bundle branch block QRS with a duration of around 150 milliseconds. Her EF was around 35% and she was on optimal medical management for the last 3 months, and despite that she was symptomatic with class 2 symptoms. So we have planned for a cardiac resynchronization therapy. Of course, angio we did it during this admission, it was normal. So like I said, the conduction system pacing is on the search for the last 2 to 3 years in India. So we gave the option of pacing the cardiac conduction system as an alternative for a BiV device. So they have accepted it. So as such, we have planned for this conduction system pacing, and if it is not going to narrow down the QRS, if it is not going to correct the QRS morphology, then obviously we have to go for a BiV device. So just briefly, I'll tell about the lab settings. It's our practice to do all the procedures with the EP system. It's almost always all patients, whether it is a CRT alternative or as a pacemaker alternative, RV pacing alternative, we always connect the patient to the EP lab. So we usually take 2 punctures from the groin. One is for the his bundle quadripolar catheter, and the second one is for the RV pacing, backup pacing.
Can you ask them to kind of increase the contrast on the EP screen?
Yes, sir. Can you increase
the contrast on the EP
screen?
screen? We are not able to see the potentials or the morphology.
Just take off the markers.
I'm sure all of you are able to see the left bundle branch block. You can see V1 to V6, all negative complex.
Yes, sir.
There's a bit of notching on the, this is important to identify the correct cases.
Yes, sir.
To identify a typical block in the bundle branches. And one of the clues is to look at the notch in the QRS, mid QRS notching.
Yes, sir.
And as you can see, there is a HV prolongation.
Yes, sir.
Can someone point out AH is short, HV is long, suggesting that there is a infrahisian disease or a conduction system disease in the His bundle. These things are important. We'll just set the stage.
Yes, sir.
Before we proceed with the case.
Yes, sir. Exactly, sir. Obviously, we'll look for a prolonged HV interval in any case of an LBBB going for a CRT implantation. So many times you'll have a prolonged HV mentioning that it's a typical electrical problem where there is a conduction delay producing LBBB, then dysynchronous contraction, and then LV dysfunction. Surprisingly, in 5% of 5 to 10% of the patients with an LBBB, we sometimes find a normal HV interval. So these are the patients where we'll be little hesitant to do pure conduction system pacing related cardiac resynchronization therapy, because many times it may be a distal disease. We may not have this typical notches as we are seeing here in this patient. So obviously, when the first stage, if you are putting a His catheter and seeing a prolonged HV, probably I'll be the happiest man, because it is all electrical. Once we correct the electrical problem, then obviously the QRS will come down to a normal duration. So there is an RV catheter to act as a backup. So you always check that whether RV pacing is there or not, because whether you are attempting His bundle or left bundle, if there is any iatrogenic injury to the AV node, His bundle, or to the right bundle, then the patient can develop an AV block. So it's always almost always better to have a backup pacing in the right ventricle in case any inadvertent injury to the His bundle or right bundle occurs. So it's just check the right ventricular pacing. Yeah, it's capturing. So it's capturing. So everything is secured from the groin. So what we always do is, once the groin catheter is in, we'll try to push and pull the catheter a little bit so that we will delineate the extent of His bundle fluoroscopically. So we'll go to RAO at 25 or 30 degree view and try to push the catheter and pull back the catheter, and we'll try to see the EP system electrograms to know where exactly the distal end of His bundle is. So you can take that as a cine and you can use it as a fluoroscopic marker, because whether you are going to do a His bundle pacing or left bundle pacing, it is almost always important to know the distal extent of the His bundle. Because if you are going for a his bundle implantation, then obviously the site to target is going to be the distal his bundle. In LBBB, almost 60 to 70% of the patient, you can have narrowing of the QRS or correction of the LBBB by pacing the distal his bundle. So in case if it is not working, maybe the disease is still more distal to the reachable area, so you may have to go down to the left bundle. So delineating the distal extent is very, very important. So that can be done from the groin itself. Of course, if you have the luxury of using two 3830 leads, then probably you can avoid taking a groin puncture. You can put one in the his and one in the one below and do the procedure. But if you don't have the luxury of using two catheters, then probably you may have to use a RV electrode, RV quadripolar catheter, or even a temporary pacing catheter in the right ventricle and one in the his bundle region.
Shanmusundaram,
yes,
can
sir.
we just show the screen?
Yes, sir.
And show the audience how to differentiate this electrically?
Yes, sir. EP.
So for some of you, this may be a little basic, pardon me, because I want everyone to be on the same page.
Yeah.
As you move the catheter more distally, you will lose the atrial signal, and predominantly it will be his signal plus the V.
Yes, sir.
That tells you are going towards the distal his.
Yes, sir.
Whereas in the proximal one, where initially the catheter was there, you saw A, his and V almost of similar amplitude.
Yes.
That is a proximal location of the his.
Yes,
now, as Dr. Shanmusundaram is moving the catheter distally, you can see that it's lost the A and it's predominantly his and V.
Yes.
So that's how electrically we decide
yes.
that it's at the distal level of the his bundle. A should become very, very minuscule, and it will be his and V.
Yes, sir, exactly, sir. So this delineation is very, very important to know the distal extent. Can you go to RAO, fluoro? High up. So now this is the current location, and
Can you show the focus on the fluoro screen,
fluoro.
please?
Can you change switch over to fluoro? Yeah. So I'll just try to push the catheter little in. One towards use his. So now you can give the EP signals also simultaneously in the small box. Or fluoro in the main. Yeah, that's perfect. So push it in little. Yeah. Now you can see. So update, William. Update. So you can see here a very, very small H and almost a very, very tiny A and a predominant V. So that means that you have almost reached the distal extent of the his bundle. That's what I was talking about, like getting a very tiny A and a good his and a strong ventricular electrogram. So probably this can be taken as a fluoroscopic landmark. I've saved this for future reference to implant the 3830 lead. And even you can see here the proximal HV is little prolonged as compared to distal HV. There is some intra-ischial disease, so there is a difference in HV between the proximal electrode and the distal electrode. Sir, Narasimhan sir, any comment on this?
Yeah, so that is a very encouraging sign to suggest that this patient's QRS is likely to narrow significantly by, this is more likely a proximal disease than a distal disease of the His-Purkinje system.
Yes, sir.
So he's likely to be a good responder. She's likely to be a good responder.
Yeah.
At least in terms of QRS narrowing.
Yes, sir. Exactly, sir. Exactly. So another important thing which we have observed in conduction system pacing, of course, this is applicable for CRT also by BIV device. A female patient probably in the early or middle part of the natural history with an LV dimension of less than 60 to 65 millimeter of diastolic diameter of less than 60 to 65. So almost always they usually respond to this conduction system pacing at a much better rate than a male population, corresponding male population. That's what we observed. Of course, many trials in the CRT also have shown that the females are better responders as compared to male, especially in probably early or middle part of the natural history. So that is applicable for both his bundle as well as for left bundle pacing. So this pocket, I have prepared the pocket just to get some time. I prepared the pocket. So it's a typical. Can you focus here? Yeah.
Zoom the camera onto the infraclavicular area.
Yeah. So it's a delta pectoral incision, left delta pectoral incision, and we have it's a blunt dissection with the retractor, and we took an extra thoracic left subclavian venous puncture. Can you run the fluoro loop? Change to fluoro screen. Switch to fluoro screen. Venous angiogram. Yeah. Yes. Next. Yeah. So two separate extrathoracic left subclavian venous puncture was obtained, and so now the line is secured. So venous puncture is there. Anything else, Narasimhan sir? Want to add anything?
Yeah, that's good. These things are important because this prevents a lot of late complications.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Yes, sir. Shall we start proceeding with the
yes, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Can we just focus on the sheath, please?
Yes, sir.
So that they can see the anterior curve and.
Yes, sir. So this usual 7 French sheath. So we always try to retain the sheath and then put the C315 sheath over this, because so if there is any issue in reaching the target site, then probably you can keep the sheath there and you can pull out the C315 sheath and you can reshape it, and you can do the procedure again. And an important thing is, even if you are not able to implant it, then probably you can take out everything and you can go for a conventional RV pacing or whatever it is. So retaining this sheath is very important. That's what we always do. Keep this 7 French peel-away sheath in situ and thread this C315 sheath over this 7 French sheath. Can we have the sheath, please?
See, in India, we have only this C315 sheath, not the deflectable one yet.
Yeah.
And it has a distinct advantage of, it is shaped in such a way it takes you to the location of the his.
Yes, sir.
And we'll show you the anterior curve there.
Yes, sir. So this is this how it comes in a package. So this is the sheath and this is the dilator. Can you prepare it and give it to me? Yeah. So this C315 is the only sheath available in India. The deflectable C304 is we are expecting it soon, probably in another 2 months or so we'll be able to get it. But the biggest advantage is that you will be able to complete the procedure with this sheath alone in almost 95% of the patients. So the remaining 5%, there may be some difficulty. So what we can do is we can always reshape the sheath. So whatever curvature you want, whether you want to increase it or decrease it, you can do it by just place the stillet inside and do it manually. The sheath has a decent memory power. It retains the curvature for at least 5 to 10 minutes. So you have to finish off the procedure within that time period. Otherwise, you have to take out and redo the shaping. Yeah. So this is the sheath. You can see here.
Can you zoom on to that, please?
Yeah.
The camera, can you zoom on to the sheath? See, as you can see, there is an anterior curve. Can we point it out? If you put it on the table, they can see the curve probably.
Focus it here.
So it's coming off the plane.
Yeah.
The vertical portion is in one plane and suddenly it comes a little off the thing, pointing towards the his bundle when you go from above.
Yes, sir.
And Shanmu Sundaram, can you just talk to them about the rear valve?
Yeah.
Why it's important, how that valve is, they need to guard so that the blood doesn't seep.
Yeah. So exactly. So the sheath has a valve distally, and the stillet will be inserted through that valve. It was designed in such a way that the valve is so slender, so you may have to be very careful in putting the dilator in and taking the dilator out while doing the procedure. So that I'll demonstrate. What I will do to preserve the valve is take out the wire first, because you have to take a 035 wire over this to take the sheath in. So once you are reaching the target zone and once you want to pull out the dilator, I almost always take out the wire first, 035 wire first, then I'll pull back the dilator so that the wire tip will not injure that valve. So the valve is so slender that it may get damaged. Once it gets damaged, after that the whole procedure will be messy, because the blood will keep on leaking outside that sheath. And it is very essential to have a dry lead just outside the sheath, because this is the area where we will be giving the rotation. So it's almost always better to retain the valve without damaging it. So there are few important things, which the most important thing is to take out the dilator first before removing the, take out the wire first before removing the dilator. So like Sir said, there are two curvatures. So one curvature will facilitate the entry into the right ventricle. So you can see here it is coming like this, and the one will allow us to enter into the right ventricle, and the distal curvature will face septally. So this will allow the lead to go directly into the His bundle area or the proximal septum for left bundle branch pacing. So this is very important to have two curvatures. These two curvatures are primarily inbuilt here. So if you want to give additional curvatures, that depends on the patient's individual anatomy. You can go in RAO and just see whether this anatomy suits for this patient. Suppose if it is not working, then probably you can take out the sheath. You don't have to have a hot water or warm water to reshape it. You can just do it manually and then put the wire again and take the catheter in. So this is about the sheath. So we're going to put a O35 wire over this sheath. And it's important to have one more table like this so that you can keep all the necessary things here, and while pulling out the sheath, while slitting away the sheath, it's good that you can have some additional table here. It's something like a CRT table, but probably a miniature of the CRT table. Yeah. So first I'm going to put the 7 French sheath in. You can focus the patient here. So I've kept it in. Just confirm my, and show the heart, yeah. So once the 7 French sheath in, then you have to take this C315 sheath over the 7 French sheath. Yeah. The patient is a little bit sedated, so you have to be very careful in not allowing the patient to suck in air. So always try to keep some wet gauze over there so that even if the patient breathes breathly, there will not be much amount of air entering into the pulmonary artery. Can you show the right atrium also? Middle it? Yeah, centric? Yeah, that's good. So I'm going in the RAO position now. So there are two ways of going to the target area. So one is go to the right atrium, and I'm going to pull the wire first. You can see here I'm pulling out the wire first slowly, and then dilator. You can see here. Yeah. So I'm taking out the dilator. So this is one way of doing. Enter into the right atrium, and then you can go slowly into the right ventricle. So another way is put the wire directly into the O35, directly into the right ventricular apex. Then you can pull back the wire, dilator, and the sheath will be in the right ventricle. So both ways are good. Either you can go from right atrium to right ventricle, or go to RV apex and pull back and reach the target area. So for His bundle pacing, you have the reference electrode, probably the distal His, which is there, that quadripolar catheter is in the distal His. So that is a reference, fluoroscopic reference for reaching the target zone. So what we'll do is we'll try to pace the distal His. Can you pace at high output, William? Yeah. Pace the distal His at high output. Go to 12 lead, next page. Go to next page, live next page. Yeah, so this, I'll just briefly mention about this EP screen settings. Can you go to previous page? So we usually have two different pages. You can set n number of pages, but we usually keep two different pages. Go to the primary page. Yeah, so there are few important leads which we have to have on the screen while doing the procedures. So though the whole 12 lead is very important, lead 1, lead 2, lead V1, and lead V5. So these three leads are very important to have while doing conduction system pacing, the importance of which I'll discuss during the implantation. And then comes your His bundle electrogram. So we'll have this distal His and proximal His from the quadripolar catheter from the groin. And you can see one LB lead mark and LB unit. That means that this electrograms from the 3830 lead. So 3830 leads electrogram will get one unfiltered and one filtered. So unfiltered will be more of unipolar configuration. So you can get the unipolar tracings in front of your eyes in the EP system. So these are the next two tracings, and the down one is RV apex. So RV apex is for backup pacing. So this component will be our primary page. So we always work in this primary page, and once we have done the implantation, once we want to measure something, then at that time you need to have the whole 12 lead. Then we'll go to the next page. In the next page, we usually set up in such a way that we'll have, retain this. So we'll have 12 leads, one His distal electrogram, and one left bundle electrogram. This is our setup. And for the unfiltered electrogram, we usually reverse the polarity and increase the notch filter. So that's how we usually set up the EP system for recording the tracings. So this is regarding the EP system. So you can go to the primary page. So now I'm in the right atrium. So we are going to paste the distal His and see whether it is correcting or not. Can you paste the distal His? Yeah. I could go to next page. Narasimhan sir, any comments? Reduce the speed, 25. Yeah. So update and put it in the review screen. Stop pacing. Stop pacing. Sir?
Yeah, you get a correction in this. You can see V2 becoming RSR dash pattern.
Yes, sir.
And for people who have joined later on, you can see a delay between the proximal His and the distal His.
Yes, sir. Go to previous page, William.
There was a significant delay in the His recording between the proximal His and the distal His, telling you the delay is in the very proximal portion of the His-Purkinje system.
Recorded.
And therefore, you are likely to correct it if you go a little distally.
Yes, sir. So there is some correction from the distal His. So anyway, we will go little below from the His, and we will deviate from the His bundle zone, and we'll try to go into the left bundle area. So now we have seen that the His bundle is giving some correction. So if you are going to map it still more perfectly, if you are going to still more go down from the distal electrode of the quadripolar catheter, probably we may be able to narrow down the QRS to complete the correction. Here in this case, I'll try whether I can reach the left bundle area. So I'm in the right atrium, and my catheter is in the right atrium without the stellate. So the movements.
Can we focus on the fluoro screen, please?
Switch over to fluoro. Fluoro. Yeah. So my catheter is in the right atrium. So now, for entering into the right ventricle or for any movement inside the heart, you have to rotate the sheath little clockwise. So clockwise movement, remember, clockwise movement is going to face the sheath towards the cavity. And counterclockwise movement will face the sheath opposed towards the septum. So if you want to move in and out, it should be a clockwise movement or clockwise torque of the sheath, then push the sheath. So remember, you are pushing the sheath without stellate or any wire there. But still, it is a safe catheter. The tip is very soft. We have never seen any perforation with this catheter. So, but be careful that don't push it when you feel resistance. Just give a gentle clockwise torque. Can you focus my hand? And it's always better to keep the sheath and your hand dry most of the times. The importance again is for a successful conduction system pacing. Both your hands as well as the lead should be dry till the time of implantation. So I'm going to go into the ventricle. So just see my hands. I'm giving a clockwise torque, seeing the fluoro. The sheath is turning in. I'm going to put in, and I'm going below the His bundle region and giving a counterclockwise torque and keeping the sheath. So can you show the fluoro, recorded fluoro? Yeah, it's playing. Yeah. So you can see here how smoothly the catheter is going in, and it is reaching a zone probably 1.5 centimeter below the His bundle. So here comes the important radiological or fluoroscopic anatomy of the cardiac conduction system. Just see the fluoroscopic. Can you just give a still frame here? So I'll take a cine and give it in the review screen. And can you show the review screen? Is it possible, or read in this? This is this enough. See, your distal His catheter is corresponding to the distal His signal, because we have already done the mapping from the groin. So distal His corresponds to the distal His signal, and my RV catheter is at the right ventricular apex. For entering into the left bundle branch area, and you are going from the right ventricle, you have to start from some part of the proximal interventricular septum. So where is the target area? So the target area, for identifying the target area, there are both anatomical as well as electrocardiographic landmarks are there. So anatomically, you have to draw an imaginary line connecting the distal His to the RV apex. Just imagine that there is a line connecting the distal His catheter in the fluoroscreen to the RV apex. And you have to target the initial 1.5 centimeter. So you have to go below and you have to target, suppose assume that this is the His catheter and this is the RV catheter lying here, you have to target the initial 1.5 centimeter. There are a few important things which you have to remember. See, if you are going closer to the His, there may be some septal arteries coming here from the LAD. There is a chance that you may damage the septal artery. We had a case where we had injured a septal artery and the patient had transient ST elevation and all. So we always avoid going the initial 1 centimeter. So it should be anything below 1 centimeter. So along the axis joining the distal His catheter to the RV apex. Another important thing which you have to remember here is the right bundle. See, your His catheter is like this, and the left bundle will be coming like this, and your right bundle will be going like this. Suppose if you are traveling or if you are taking your sheath along the 0-degree line of the His bundle, there is a high chance that you will injure the right bundle. So almost always keep your catheter, suppose if it is the His bundle, keep your catheter little below. So having a quadripolar catheter from the groin throughout the procedure, till the time you complete the procedure is very important, so that you know the fluoroscopic landmark and you know where to enter, and you will, the chance of damaging the right bundle will be very, very less. Because you can see here that you can play the screen again, that fluoro loop again, just go back. So you can see here, I was very conscious in taking my catheter below the His bundle, because if you are going to injure the right bundle, two important things going to happen. One is obviously patient will develop complete heart block, and you may have to pace the right ventricle for a backup pacing. But the another important thing is in LBBB, we always want the right bundle to conduct, because for final programming, you can use the native AV node right bundle right ventricular activation for a good fusion. So these two important things are very important to avoid injuring the right bundle. So you have to be very careful in taking the catheter below the His. So you can again play the fluoro loop again. You can see here the catheter is going very slowly just below the His bundle, and I've kept it probably in the initial 1.5 centimeter. So now my catheter is in the same area where I've kept. So this is a target area identified by fluoroscopic landmark. The next thing is confirmation by electrocardiographic landmark. Electrocardiographic landmark, there are a lot of criteria given. Of course, Dr. Wang typically described pace it. So you just expose the 3830 lead outside the sheath and pace and see whether you are going to get a W pattern in lead V1. So that's what the importance of lead V1 lies. I was talking about the ECG leads which are important while starting the procedure. So lead V1, you have to see whether you are getting a W pattern from the right side of the septum. You are pacing from the right side of the septum, your left bundle is on the other side. So you are pacing from the right side. So you have to see whether you are getting a W pattern in lead V1. But what we have observed is the W pattern will be seen in at least 80%. But rest 20% still they don't have, they will not have W pattern. So that is not a compulsory criteria to penetrate the septum to lead the left bundle branch area. About other leads. Of course, the classical description is when you pace from the right side of the septum, you will have a W pattern. You will have a AVR-AVL discordancy. So AVR and AVL, the QRS should be discordant. And you should have a predominantly positive QRS in lead 2 and probably a biphasic in lead 3. AVF can be anything. So these are the criteria which are described. So among these, if you want me to choose one criteria, I would choose lead 2. Because having a lead 2 positivity at the target zone has a very high success of capturing the left bundle, as opposed to a negative lead 2, which will ultimately resulting in pacing the left posterior fascicle. See, I was talking about the fluoroscopic anatomy of cardiac conduction system. This is your quadripolar His bundle catheter, meaning that the His bundle is like this, the left bundle will be coming like this, and the right bundle will be going like this. So from the left bundle, your left posterior fascicle will come as a continuation. So left bundle will actually continue as a left posterior fascicle, and the anterior fascicle will go little anteriorly. So if you have any problem in capturing the proximal left bundle, like for example, if the patient has some scar there, you can always have the opportunity of going below, probably another 1 centimeter below, to capture the posterior fascicle. So that's the luxury of this bundle branch capture, this left bundle branch capture, because if the proximal bundle is not getting captured, you can always go below to capture the posterior fascicle. So that is the electrocardiographic identification of the target site. Target site is very important in left bundle branch pacing because we will not be seeing any potential to begin with, unlike your His bundle, because His bundle, we are aiming for a good potential, and we are aiming for a normal HV. Here the baseline HV was 65 or 68. So if you are going to do a His bundle pacing, you have to take the lead there, map the lead, get an area with a normal HV interval. But in left bundle, we will not be seeing any potential. It's like going blindly on a river. So you have to identify a good site to go into the left bundle area, which is on the left side of the interventricular septum. So now my sheath is still there. Yeah. So I'm going to take the lead. So I'll briefly discuss about the lead anatomy. Sir Narasimhan sir, if you want to anything you want to add, sir?
No, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir.
We'll probably describe the thing later on.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Let's finish. The pocket is open for a long time.
Yes,
let's finish the case.
Yes, sir.
A couple of questions in chat box. We'll address them later on.
Sure, sir. So this is the lead, 4.1 front size, open helix, MRI compatible, 3830 model, select securely. You can see here it's an open helix lead. The lead helix is exposed. So you can see the helix. Can you zoom the helix? Is it visible? Can you zoom it here? Still more? Yeah, still. I'll keep it against the white background. It's better? No, it's okay. So the helix measures 1.8 millimeter. So that's the routine helix in either it is an active fixation lead or a 3830 lead. The helix is going to be 1.8 millimeter. And you can see a black marker here. So the helix is going to be the cathode and the black marker is going to be the anode. So this helix, I said it's around 1.8 millimeter. So from the helix to the distal end of this anode, this distal end of this anode is around 9 millimeter. So from the helix to the distal end of the anode is 9 millimeter. So this is 1.8 millimeter. So altogether, this is around 10.8 millimeter. This measurement is very important for left bundle, not for His bundle, for left bundle pacing, because you are going to deploy the lead deep inside the septum. So we always do echocardiography on table just before putting the quadripolar lead from the groin, just to make sure that the implanter is aware of the septal thickness. There is no separate criteria for choosing a patient based on septal thickness, whether it is a 6 millimeter or 7 millimeter septum or it is a 20 millimeter or 25 millimeter septum. You will be able to do the procedure provided you could capture the left bundle safely. But you need to know the septal thickness to know how deeply you are going to deploy the lead inside the septum. So these numbers 1.8 millimeter and 9 millimeter are very important. So altogether, this black marker is radio opaque. Suppose if the radio opaque marker is touching the septum on the right side of the septum, that means that at least 10.8 millimeter of your lead is inside the septum. So this patient echocardiographically, the septal thickness was 11 millimeter. I usually measure in multiple views, parasternal long axis, short axis, and apical 4-chamber view, and will take the largest dimension. If suppose if septal thickness is 11 millimeter, then at least 10.8 millimeter or even 11 millimeter of the lead should go in, because not all the times your lead will be going perpendicular to the septum. Sometimes it may go even obliquely. So you can even see a 12 millimeter lead buried inside a 10 millimeter septal thickness, because some of the lead might be going little obliquely. So I'm going to put the lead inside the septum. And regarding this, I'll just briefly tell about the connections. The cables, you can bifurcate the cable either at one end, at the end of connecting it to the PSA, or you can take duplications here itself. So we always duplicate the cables here. We'll pin two cables together and use it for mapping and pacing. Yeah. So this is a helix. So I always see the hole in that sheath, and because the hole will be eccentric, that valve hole will be eccentric, so you always have to see the hole where it is, and then you have to place the lead inside, because if you are putting it blindly, there is a chance that you will injure the valve. So my sheath is retaining there safely. So my lead is out now. Okay. So we'll try to pace and see. Soon. Still in the same spot. So here only the lead tip or the cathode only is exposed. So you cannot do a bipolar mapping. You have to do only a unipolar pacing. So I'm going to connect the red to the patient and the black to the patient, to the lead tip, and pace. Can it go to 12 lead? Next page, William. Pace. Can you sedate the patient? Yeah. Stop pacing.
See a notch coming out.
Yeah. So can you zoom it? That V1, can you zoom it? Increase amplitude of lead V1. Yeah. So
the paste complex.
Yes, sir. This is a paste complex. Yeah. Go to the review screen, please. Tell them to switch over to review screen. Yeah. So you can see here lead V1 is showing a good notch on the nadir, probably closer to the nadir of the QRS, lead V1. And you can see a positive QRS in lead 2 and a predominantly positive QRS in lead AVF. So that means that it's a reasonably good site to go ahead. So like I said, so even if there is no notch, but if I see a positive QRS in lead 2, I'll be happy to put the lead inside the, deep inside the septum. So from here, there are two different ways of doing the procedure. One is as typically Dr. Wong has described, where you will be giving turn by turn. Start giving rotations turn by turn and see the QRS morphology. Primarily, you will be concentrating on lead V1. See that, please. So what you will be observing is, as the lead goes in slowly, you will be able to see the notch gradually ascending up and form an R wave in lead V1. So the notch on the nadir will go on the ascending limb, then it will reach the isoelectric line. Ultimately, it will form an R wave. So that occurs when you are giving turn by turn from the one end of the lead, and the lead is gradually getting deployed inside the septum. Simultaneously, you have to monitor the impedance. Unipolar pacing impedance, for example, will start from 400 ohms on the right side of the septum. So once you give turns, there will be a gradual increase in the impedance, 400, 600, 800, 900. Once you reach the LV subendocardium, that means that once you reach the LV left bundle branch area, there will be a drop in impedance by 100 ohms. So you have to observe it, and the impedance will be somewhere around 700 or 750 or 800. So once you reach that area, you have to stop giving further turns, because you almost reached the LV cavity, your LV subendocardium. Further turns will result in perforation. So that is another thing which you have to monitor while deploying the lead by typical Wong's technique. So one thing is notch will migrate to form an R wave, and your impedance will gradually ascend up, followed by a drop when it reaches a left bundle branch area. Remember, don't accept an impedance if the unipolar impedance is, don't accept the position if the unipolar impedance is less than 400 ohms. Typically, we usually won't accept less than 450, but up till 400, it is good enough. So anything below 400, think about the lead perforation. The lead might got exposed into the cavity. Though sometimes your QRS morphology may look better, don't accept an impedance of less than 400, because the next time the lead might go into the cavity. So almost always safer to have a lead impedance of more than 500 ohms. Simultaneously, you can see a narrowing of the QRS duration from probably 150 milliseconds to probably 110 or 120 milliseconds once it reaches the left bundle area. So ultimately, they will be able to see a right bundle branch block conduction delay once you reach the target area. So that is how Dr. Wong has described. But what we usually do is, we adapted recently, we have adapted another strategy, what is known as a PVC guided left bundle branch pacing. So here, since you are giving rapid rotations, so we will not give turn by turn, we will give rapid rotations. If you are giving rapid rotations, the lead will go fastly inside the septum. So that fast movement will generate PVCs. So we'll observe the PVC, or William will observe the PVC. I will be deploying the lead, seeing the LO view. And you can see the PVC morphology typically changes from QS on the right side of the septum to QR once it reaches the left side of the septum. So QR is nothing but a RBBB delay. So that means that if you are getting a QR pattern or RSR pattern PVC, you can stop giving further turns. So remember, all these things happens within fraction of seconds, probably 2 to 3 seconds. So somebody has to monitor the PVC. Once it comes, then he will signal me like, sir, the PVC has come, so we'll stop giving further turns. Though it looks complex, but it is probably the easiest way of doing lub and branch pacing, because one thing, it will save your time. You don't have to disconnect, connect, and see for pacing all these things. And the second thing, since you are doing it rapidly, the fluoroscopic time will come down. Another important thing which we observed is the troponin release. We have compared the two groups which had this PVC, and we have actually labeled the PVC as a template bead. And we have compared, and we actually surprised to see that the myocardial injury, as measured by the troponins, was less in patients who have undergone this PVC guided deployment as compared to those patients without this PVC guided deployment. But the important thing is, only if the septum is good, only if the septum is non-scarred, only if the septum is clean without scar, you'll be able to rapidly penetrate the septum. Otherwise, it will be a nightmare to penetrate the septum if the septum is having some scar. So anyway, we have done cardiac MRI for this patient. The septum doesn't show any scar. There is no LGE. And hope we'll be able to deploy the lead by our PVC guided method. So I'm going to deploy the lead now. So remember my hands, just see my hands. So I'm still in the RAO. So I'm not happy with the position, please. So I'm here. So see the hub of the sheath. Can you focus the hand? Yeah. I'll just adjust. I have to do some fine tuning. I'm in a good area. So the hub should be at least at 6 or 5 o'clock position, preferably at 4 o'clock position. So once it is done, so RAO is only for identifying the site. So now you have to come to LAO. So once I reach the LAO, and once I'm ready for giving screw, I'll usually remove my gloves, and I always start with double glove. And so you can see here, the sheath is almost in an L-shaped configuration of the septum. Just focus my hand. So go to RAO, please. The sheath moved, I think. So yeah, so the sheath has moved little. It's not into the area where I wanted to deploy. Yeah, hold on here. Don't move the sheath. Come back to LAO. So I'm going to give little rotation. My hub is now pointing towards RAO. It's slipping. Switch off the fluoro. It is saving everything. Yeah. Yeah. Come to LAO. So I'm going to give rapid turns. Yeah. So now you can see it's beautiful. Yeah. So throw the fluoro. Yeah. So you can see here
template beads.
Yeah, exactly, sir. Exactly. So go to the next screen, William.
So the review screen, please.
So I'm going to connect it now. There was some resistance in putting the lead, which I'll be happy to take, because that resistance will keep the lead stable there. Some minimal resistance. It's not a cheesy septum. Yeah. So now you can see the PVC morphology, which has started from QS. Can you increase lead V1 alone and diminish V2? Yeah, diminish V2 and bring the V2 down, bring the V3 down, and show V1 alone. So that's what I want to know. Yeah, so you can see here the QS morphology on lead V1 gradually changes, and I got a last bead which is something like an M pattern. So that is very, very important to observe this M pattern. When you see the transition from non-selective to selective, usually the QR pattern will change to M pattern. So now you are getting a template bit of M pattern. That means that you are probably right on the left bundle area. So that we can confirm by doing the unipolar threshold checking. Before that, I would like to measure the duration of that M pattern beat, and I would like to measure the ventricular activation time from the onset to the peak of V5. It will be usually less than 130 milliseconds, duration of P wave, the duration of the QRS. William, increase amplitude of lead V5. Yeah, now show the peak. So the measurements which we'll be doing here is, one is of course the QRS duration, and the second important thing is LVAT, peak left ventricular activation time. Some people measure in lead V6, like Marek and all, he is very particular in measuring it in lead V6, but we usually measure in lead V5, that's how Dr. Wang has described initially. So from the pacing spike to the peak of R wave in V5. So here, to confirm left bundle branch capture, so to confirm left bundle branch capture, so you have to have a short and constant left ventricular activation time. What is that? So first, measure the LV activation time from the pacing artifact to the peak of R wave at 8 volt, and again measure the peak left ventricular activation time at 2 volt. So you have to have a constant number. So that again we'll be checking during this unipolar pacing. So can you have the numbers, please? What's the R wave like?
R wave 6.3.
That's great. That's fantastic.
I'm facing at 120.
Yeah.
At 8 volt.
Yeah.
Difference 499.
Increase the rate, pacing rate.
I'm already at 120, sir.
120. Okay, that's great. Okay. LVAT.
At 8 volt.
Okay, right. Come down. Go to next page, William.
I'm at 5.
Okay. Retain the screen, William. Yeah.
I'm at 4. 3. I'm at 2.
1.9,
1.9.
1.8, 1.7, 1.6,
1.6.
1.5, 1.4,
4.
1.3,
1.2.
1.1,
1.1. 1. 0.9. 0.8. 0.7. 0.6.
இல்லை இல்லை நான் போகுது போங்க போ
0.4.
selective transition. Okay. So we'll now search for this non-selective to selective transition. Reduce the amplitude of lead left bundle electrogram. Left bundle electrogram amplitude. Yeah. Yeah. So go forward. Off pacing. Off pacing. Check. Okay. So you can just again pace at 125. What is the baseline rate now?
102, sir.
102. Pace at 120.
I'm facing at 120.
Start from 2 volt.
I'm at 2 volt.
Yeah, come down. William, go to previous screen. Live screen, go to previous screen. Yeah.
1.8. 1.7. 1.6. 1.5. 1.4. 1.3. 1.2. 1.1. 1. 0.9. 0.8. 0.7. 0.6. 0.5. 0.4. 0.3.
Yeah. Last bit, can you show
Last.
it to us? Yeah. Last bit, can you? Off pacing, off pacing. What is the impedance like?
Impedance right now is 480.
418.
418.
Okay. Okay, the capture is good, the threshold is good, and reduce amplitude, William, of left bundle lead alone.
Can we see the electrogram from the left ventricular lead,
Yes, sir. It is
left
there.
bundle lead?
Yes, sir. That's the one, sir.
I thought I
Go to
see a
the
potential there.
go to the. I'll give a bipolar. Bipolar will not work here.
Uni shows a significant ST elevation. I think all of you would have noticed
Yeah.
it.
Yes, sir.
Current of injury is quite significant
Yeah.
in the last but one
Yeah. Show that, William.
above the red.
So last, yeah, LB uni, that is an unfiltered electrogram showing a good current of injury. That means that you have not crossed the septum, and threshold again confirms that your threshold 0.3 again confirms you are still in the septum, you are not penetrated it, and the QRS morphology also doesn't change to confirm that you are still in the septum, not inside the left ventricle. So I think this is a reasonably a good position, and sir, we can accept this position.
Yes, looks very good.
Yes, sir.
Both high output and low output.
Yeah, can you pace
see
it?
that the thing is constant.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Again, show. Pace at 8 and pace at 2. Go to next page, William. Live screen, next page. Patient is moving. Yeah.
Right now I'm at 8.
Yeah. Update. Pace at 2.
I'm on 2, sir.
Update, William. Yeah, it's exactly the same. 63 milliseconds. Looks perfect. So now you can do contrast angio and show the septal thickness, and you can pull out the sheath. Sheath angio, please.
So for the audience, if you see a difference in morphology between high output and low output,
Yes, sir.
that means you are not exactly on the left bundle.
Area. Yes, sir. You are still probably 1 or 2 millimeters away from the left bundle areas. For example,
Yes.
if at pacing at 8 volt, if your LVAT is 63, and if I'm coming down that LVAT is increasing to probably 80 or 90, that means that still I am little farther away from the left
Just
bundle
1
area.
or 2 turns may be enough.
Yes, sir. Probably 1 or 2 turns will land us in the left bundle area. So I have to there is no need for aspirating and all these things, because that is only going to worsen the scenario. Just try to give some saline and see whether any resistance is there or not. I'm going to gently pull back a little, so not to dissect the septum by giving a forceful injection. I'm going to inject the contrast. Yeah.
Can you go back to that screen, please? We are still seeing the electrograms.
Can you go to the fluoro screen?
This is a sheath electrogram. I mean, sheath angio.
Yes. I'm going to flush again the contrast out, so that while removing the sheath, there should not be any contrast damaging the lead. Just play the again, contrast angio again. Previous. Yeah. Freeze and show the contrast delineating the septum. Can you freeze? Fluoro freeze.
See, the anode has penetrated the RV aspect of the septum.
Yes, sir. So you can see here the contrast septal staining is midway in that this radio opaque marker. That means that our anode, part of the anode is also in. So I measured a septal thickness of around 11, but here at least 12 millimeter of the lead is inside. That means that probably the lead has gone little obliquely to have an additional 1 or 2 millimeter, and that will again help you in establishing the stability of the lead. So now I'm going to pull it back. Come to AP. So then these other movements are just like deploying a CRT CS lead and pulling the sheath back. I'm going to thread the lead little in, and too much of cardiac movement. Let's see our lead stays there. Yeah.
Try to avoid this loop.
Yes.
You can talk to them about it.
Yes, sir. Straighter. So here, a lot of mischievous thing might happen, lots of dangerous thing might happen, but don't worry about it till the time your lead is not moving. Go to RAO. So these loops, some dangerous loops might form. So all you have to do is just gently withdraw the lead. Just observe my hand movements. I'm just withdrawing with a slight counterclockwise torque, and now I will loop it. Just play the fluoro. I hope everybody has seen my hand movement. Just slightly pull it back and giving a counterclockwise torque. We'll see again the parameters. Hopefully we are not dislodged the lead. Yeah. Numbers,
Okay,
please.
meanwhile, can you Shanmusundaram, I would let you to close the pocket. There
Yes,
are
sir.
a couple of questions we'll address and then come back to this.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Okay, sir.
Souvik, can you read the questions or can I have the thing to the questions?
Souvik, you please switch off my mic. So I can just zoom that fluoroscopic view. This is the fluoroscopic anatomy which I was talking about. So in the RAO 25 or 30, whichever is conventional for us, we can take a cine for reference. So you can mark an imaginary line connecting the distal His bundle to the RV apex. So that imaginary line probably you have to go 1 centimeter at least below that distal His signal. So that drawn white line is the conduction system anatomy. So from the His bundle actually divides there into a left bundle and right bundle. And the right bundle you can see is actually in line with the His bundle catheter. It is actually on the 0-degree axis of that His bundle catheter. So when you come down, you will be able to capture the left bundle. And you can see this left posterior vesicle, it is actually in direct continuation with the left bundle. So if there is any issue, like sir was talking about an anterior case where you can have some proximal septal scar, in that case you can go little below and you will be able to capture the posterior vesicles instead of myocardium in case of proximal septal scar. So still you will be able to capture the cardiac conduction system in case of basal septal scar. And anterior vesicular capture, though some people have demonstrated this, it is very difficult to capture the anterior vesicle. You have to go little anteriorly and above. Many times you will end up in injuring the right bundle if you are trying to capture the anterior vesicle. But it's better to go to posterior vesicle if you are not able to access the left bundle branch, main left bundle branch. So that's what we usually see this lead 2. If it is positive, then it means that you will be capturing the proximal main bundle. If it is negative, then you will capture the posterior vesicles rather than the main left bundle. So it's better to have a proximal septal capture because you will not have any axis deviation. Narasimhan sir?
Yeah, that's perfect in the stuff. What Shanmusundaram, is
Yes,
there
sir.
a picture of a short axis of the LV somewhere? There's the next question Dr. Venkat has asked. Is there any difference in clinical outcome?
Yes, sir.
The pacing site changes from LV trunk to posterior or anterior LV fascicles. Can we have one of the short axis picture that will be, I'm
Echo,
looking
sir?
for,
Echo?
do you have a short axis of LV with a papillary muscle or something?
Echocardiographic image I have to search, sir. No.
Let me see if I can pull out something.
Not here, not here. You have an echo machine here? Oh. So meanwhile, I'll show some important findings which we have got it during that talk.
Please,
Yes,
go
sir.
ahead.
Yes, sir. So there are certain criteria which we have to satisfy to confirm that we have captured the left bundle. So the conventional criteria is to get a QR pattern in lead V1. So QR pattern in lead V1 indicates that you are on the left side of the septum. It may occur when there is a capture of the left bundle, or even it can occur when there is a capture of the left side of the septum. So it's not the only criteria to satisfy, so you have to have other additional criteria. The second most important is to record a left bundle branch potential. So left bundle branch potential will be recorded in all patients except a complete left bundle branch block, and in those patients with a complete infra-ECN block. So in these two group of patients, complete infra-ECN block and complete left bundle branch block, you will not have any antegrade activation of the left bundle during sinus rhythm. So in these two groups, you will not be able to demonstrate left bundle potential during sinus rhythm. You have to do additional maneuvers to document it. In all other patients, you will be able to demonstrate the left bundle branch potential. So provided an opportunity, you should try to get a left bundle potential before closing your site of pacing. The third criteria is to demonstrate non-selective to selective left bundle capture. So this transition of non-selective to selective capture usually occurs at the near threshold value, meaning that, for example, if the threshold is 0.3, unipolar threshold is 0.3, like in this case our threshold is 0.3, so it usually happens at 0.5, 0.4 and 0.3. For probably for these 2-3 outputs, you will have a selective capture, and then suddenly there will be a loss of capture. Can you show the review screen of EP system? Yeah. So is it visible, sir, clearly?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So this, the output was we have gradually reduced the output from 2. So at 0.5, I think, there is a transition from non-selective to selective. Just see the initial 3 bits. You will be able to see a very, very small or no R in lead V1, and there is a big R dash in lead V1. So there is a QR pattern, or yeah, it's a QR pattern. And the local electrogram, there is a pacing spike immediately followed by a local ventricular electrogram. Just see the last electrogram, LB lead electrogram. Can you just show, William, the first 3 beats? So you can see the pacing spike is immediately followed by a local ventricular electrogram. The next 3 beats, one thing, you'll be able to see a separate interval between the pacing spike and the local ventricular electrogram. That means that the ventricular electrogram has come out from the pacing artifact. So there is a distinct interval from the pacing spike to the local ventricular electrogram.
Can you ask someone to use your pointer there?
Yeah, please, William.
Because
just show your cursor.
Needs to
yeah.
know.
So this is, yes, sir. So this
can you elevate this thing, the last panel where he says as LB lead?
Yeah.
LB lead electrogram, look at those complexes, it's all negative QS, and suddenly it becomes positive.
Yeah. So just increase the, yeah. So this mark, just show that for the third beat, there is a pacing artifact and there is a crumbled ventricular electrogram occurring immediately after that pacing artifact. There is no distinct interval between the pacing artifact and the local ventricular electrogram. Just see the fourth beat. You will be able to just show the fourth beat. Don't put any cursor. Just show the fourth beat. Just take out the cursor. Show the just that concentrate that electrogram. You'll be able to see a pacing artifact, and there is small interval, isoelectric interval, probably for 30 milliseconds, and then you are able to see a ventricular electrogram. So that means that the impulse is going only via left bundle, and then it reaches the Purkinje fibers, then it is activating the ventricular myocardium. As opposed, don't close that. So as the previous beat, there is a simultaneous activation of LV septum and the left bundle. So both the ventricular electrogram and the pacing artifacts are crumbled together. But in the fourth beat, the impulse is going only via left bundle. So there is a distinct isoelectric interval. That is the time required for the interval to travel down via the left bundle, via the Purkinje fibers to reach the ventricular myocardium. Then it activates. So obviously, you will be able to see some QRS morphology changes. The most common morphology change will be change in QR pattern to M pattern. There will be a RSR pattern in lead V1. Just increase amplitude of lead V1. Still, it is not very clear, but you'll be able to see a distinct QR pattern to M or RSR pattern, and there will be some deepening of S wave in lead V6. Can you increase amplitude of lead V6? Go up, go up. Lead V6, go up. Lead V6, go up in amplitude. Don't show any cursors. Increase amplitude. It's clearly visible. Reduce amplitude of lead V5 and increase amplitude of lead V6. Increase amplitude. Still more, yeah. So now you can see the first 3 beat doesn't have probably a very small, tiny S wave, but in the last 3 beats you can see a very good S wave. So this S wave slurring or increase in the duration of S wave and change in QR pattern to M pattern or RSR pattern signifies that there is a selective left bundle capture. This I predicted when I saw the template bit. The template bit also had the similar morphology. Can you open the template bit? So I was briefly discussing about this selective and non-selective capture when I showed that PVC. Yeah. So both at same speed, 150, yeah. So you can see here the morphology of this first screen, go to selective capture. You are in non-selective capture. Forward, please. Yeah. So you can see the last beat in the right screen and the last beat in the left screen. So both are almost equal. You can see that the same M pattern in the last beat on the right side, that PVC switch got generated. Just put the cursor on the right screen on the template beat. V1. Just use your cursor only, mouse cursor only. Yeah. Don't take that hand signal. Take out the hand signal. Use the mouse cursor. Yeah. So show the V1. You can see the M pattern here. Yeah. And show the V6. You can see that S wave. So the same thing is seen when there is a selective capture of the left bundle. You can see there is almost a 12 by 12 match in the PVC morphology. during pacing, or the QRS morphology during selective capture of, not that one, next beat. So during selective capture and during the template beat. So when I saw this template beat itself, I could predict that definitely the patient will have this non-selective to selective transition. Suppose, for example, if you are not able to show this non-selective to selective transition, that means that you are still in the left bundle branch area, but need not be on the top of the left bundle. So in that case, when you reduce the output, you will have a transition from non-selective to septal capture. That means that till 0.5 or 0.4, you will be capturing the septal myocardium as well as the left bundle. Once you reduce the output to less than 0.4, there will be a loss of left bundle capture. And since your lead is little away from the left bundle, there will be a capture of septal myocardium. So this non-selective to septal capture or non-selective to selective capture, both these are markers of confirming conduction system capture. So you have to show anything, any one of the thing, either non-selective to septal capture or non-selective to selective capture. Of course, the next thing is this showing this constant peak and constant, short and constant peak left ventricular activation time. And it should be like less than 75. That's what the recent Wong's article is telling. So it should be less than 75 in any patients, any given patient, and you can increase by 10 milliseconds if there is a cardiomyopathy. You can have at least up to 85 milliseconds. In our lab, we usually have a cutoff of 80. If it is not 80, then we'll try to go to some other site to look for a good LVAT. So if it is beyond 90 and all, usually we will not accept. That means that probably it is more of a septal capture rather than a true conduction system capture. But in patients with a very dilated LV or very thick LV or very scarred LV, you may tend to get a very prolonged LVAT. Sometimes even 100, 110 and all will be there. So these are all the patients where your left bundle pacing alone is not going to work, and probably you may have to put an additional CS lead. So when the LVAT is not good, if it is beyond 90 milliseconds, we usually won't accept that result. So we have to put an additional CS lead to have a left bundle branch optimized cardiac resynchronization therapy rather than a LBBP only CRT therapy. Of course, once the implantation is done, here we have used only a dual chamber pacemaker. One thing is going to give a good cost advantage, and second thing is once you get a good LVAT, good left bundle capture, good narrowing of QRS, I don't know how additional benefit this CS lead is going to put. So I've just attached a dual chamber pulse generator. So then the next thing is to program the AV delay. Can you go to the screen which we have marked? So programming an AV delay, it's very, very important in patients with an LBBB. So while implantation, I was talking briefly about this retaining the RBBB conduction. So retaining the RBBB conduction is very, very important to have a good AV nodal fusion, because we know that RBBB delay is the hallmark of left bundle branch pacing. There are certain ways to mask the RBBB delay. So one important thing is to optimize the AV delay to get a good AV nodal fusion. So that is going to mask your RBBB delay. And second thing is anodal capture. Since you can see here at least 12-13 millimeter of lead is buried inside the septum. So if you are going to capture the anode also, meaning that simultaneously you are capturing the right side of the septum and the left side of the septum, that means that there will be a simultaneous activation of the septum, so you will not have any RBBB delay. So we have demonstrated the anodal capture also. Can you show, William, anodal capture threshold? Yeah. Go back. Yeah, so stop. So first 3 beats you can see lead, to change the 12 lead please. Yeah. In the first 3 beats you can see the lead V1, it is still QS, right? There is no RBBB delay. We are pacing the left bundle lead in a bipolar configuration. So you are capturing both cathode and anode. The first beat, till the first 3 beats, both anode and cathode are getting captured. And once the output was reduced below 1.7, that was our anodal capture threshold, suddenly you can see the appearance of QR pattern. That means that at 1.7 there is a loss of anode, only the cathode alone is capturing. And remember here the cathode alone is capturing both the septal myocardium as well as the left bundle. So that means that there is a loss of anodal capture, but there is a non-selective capture of cathode capturing both septum as well as the left bundle. So once you reduce still further, at an output of probably again 0.4 or 0.5, you will be having the transition from non-selective to selective. So you will be able to see 3 transition while doing this bipolar pacing. So one is transition from anodal capture to cathodal non-selective capture. And second transition will be occurring at near threshold, this non-selective cathodal capture to selective cathodal capture. So this double transition is one way of confirming that you have captured the left bundle. Come back to AV delay. So we have implanted a dual chamber pacemaker and we have optimized the AV delay. Go to 12 lead, 25. Can you sedate the patient? Show 12 lead, yeah. So you can see the AV delay, we just played around the AV delay. So initially we kept at 30 milliseconds. You can see a complete capture of left bundle. There is no there is no AV nodal activation. The first 5-6 beats are having only left bundle capture. So then we have increased the AV delay to 60. We can see a slight hump of R wave. You can see a very slight hump of R wave. That means that the AV node has started fusing. And you can see the memory T waves in all the leads, in chest leads, irrespective of the AV delay. Memory T waves again confirms that we have captured the septum, captured the conduction system, not the septum alone. Once I increase the AV delay by little further to 70 milliseconds, you will be able to see that RBVB is completely masked and you are going to get a near normal QRS. The QRS duration was 106 milliseconds when we optimized the AV delay. So one thing, by doing an AV delay optimization, you are allowing the right ventricle to get activated by a AV node and left ventricle to get activated via your left bundle pacing lead, and there will be some or probably a better interventricular synchrony rather than just having a pure left bundle activation. And second thing is, obviously you are going to get a still more additional narrowing of QRS, because this RBBB delay, since it has an additional RDAS wave, is going to increase the QRS duration by still additional 20 or 30 milliseconds. Sir, over to Narasimhan, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Very nice illustration. There are a couple of questions. Let me just start with Dr. Venkat's question. I pulled out some. Can I share the screen? Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Okay. Now the question was whether there is a difference in outcome between posterior fascicular capture or central trunk. Now the problem is the posterior fascicle, this is the posterior papillary muscle. This is an anterior papillary muscle. And this is the RV in short axis. So let me just see this. This is the posterior papillary muscle, anterior papillary muscle. So one subset of patients with left bundle branch block, which may worsen with selective posterior capture, is patients who have eccentric MR. So if they have a delayed contraction of the anterior papillary muscle, the impulse will travel first, this will make it contract here, and then there will be a conduction here. So this is common in patients who have a scar and which delays the conduction between here to here. So if you have a person with a scar in the myocardium, subendocardium, which doesn't allow the impulse to easily go through, whereas if you pace and capture the trunk here, you will have simultaneous activation of posterior and anterior papillary muscle. So theoretically, there is an advantage to go to the central trunk. But if you have a basal scar, if you cannot penetrate the septum, as a next best option, you can come for the posterior fascicular capture. So I hope that, and that may be the reason for difference in clinical outcome. The commonest pattern that you see among patients with dilated cardiomyopathy is pure left bundle branch block with normal axis. But as the fibrosis increase, you will have left axis deviation where there will be a late activation. For most of these patients, screwing in a lead here from RV endocardium to here, capturing the penetrating bundle of his is good enough. There was again a question regarding the fusion activation. This is to, I think Dr. Vidya, someone asked. So what you're doing is, I think this was very well illustrated. You penetrate the septum and capture this left bundle. So the impulse goes down the left bundle and slowly comes back muscle to muscle activation, and there is a delayed activation of the right bundle. So please remember, in patients with left bundle branch block, this right bundle is conducting normally. When Dr. Shanmugasundaram paced at a sensed AV delay of 30 milliseconds, he didn't allow the conduction through the right bundle. It was all predominantly through the left bundle. the impulse was coming down and there was a late activation of the right bundle. But as you prolong the sense Davy delay to 70 or 80 millisecond, this time you are capturing this bundle by your pacemaker. At the same time, the native conduction is coming. So both of them have a fusion activation in the septum, and the QRS becomes essentially very narrow. That is the fusion activation. I hope I am clear with this. Any other questions in the chat box? Dr. Vidya, I hope that has answered your question. Is there a role of RV in the apex or distal spectrum CRT, or all RV leads to be in left bundle or CS? So the RV, when it is a Dheeraj Kumar, this is a very pertinent question. When you have a defibrillator lead, and it has been shown that the defibrillator lead, the ideal position for that is RV apex. In terms of for some reason, the outcome data suggests that the defibrillator lead positioned in outflow tract, there is a slightly higher incidence of VT and VF and so on and so forth. So even if a person needs a defibrillator, we tend to put it, suppose a patient has a predominant left bundle branch block and you get a CRT or a left bundle capture and the QRS has become very narrow, then you can leave the lead in the apex and have the pacing lead in the either the LV or in the left bundle. So we prefer to keep the defibrillator lead in the RV apex for because there have been some outcome data to say that long term that is a better position.
Sir, there is a question. I could not understand.
I could not understand the principle of memory T-wave conduction system pacing, how it confirms septal capture. So in a person where you have intermittent, see, this is the ion channels, everything depends on the pattern of the very late area of activation depolarization. That area also will repolarize late. So when you suddenly change the activation wavefront, left bundle becomes a right bundle, the repolarizing ion channels, especially potassium channels, still think they are in the same phase and they repolarize late. That is why those changes which was predominantly negative, that is V1 and V2, they will still retain a negative T wave even though you have become a right bundle branch block. That is the thing of a memory T wave. Any other questions? What is the next thing, Ganesan?
Sir, all the questions are over, and
I'm not able to see all the questions. That's why I'm asking you.
Sir, all the questions are over, sir, and also Dr. Shanmugasundaram is in futuring, so I think we can close the thing, sir.